Have you ever looked back at a moment in your life and thought, that was the trap right there staring me in the face and I still walked straight into it? That's exactly where this story begins. I should have seen it, I should have walked away, but I didn't. And what followed, well, it nearly cost me everything. I'm Ethan Cross, 28, and for the last 5 years I've run my own security consultancy. It started small, me in my garage, installing budget alarms for nervous homeowners. But word spread. A few lucky breaks, a few big contracts, and now my team and I handle surveillance systems and access control for millionaire estates and corporate headquarters. The kind of clients who care deeply about who steps through their doors. You'd think with that line of work I'd be able to spot threats from a mile away. You'd think I'd recognize manipulation when it was dressed up as affection. But no, when it came to my own life, I was blind. Before I share what came next, the choices I made, the truths I uncovered, I want to know where you're watching from. Please, hit subscribe and leave a comment with your city. Your stories, your voices, they matter. And if you've ever felt trapped in a love that turned into something else entirely, maybe my story will feel familiar. The first mistake, meeting Aria. 2 years ago I met Aria Kane. It was at some trendy craft brewery opening, overpriced drinks, fake smiles, everyone pretending to care about hops. I hate those places. But Aria, she stood out. She was 26, a marketing executive at a tech company, sharp and polished, with the kind of ambition you could feel just by being near her. Not loud ambition, the kind that sneaks into every conversation, the kind that makes you believe she's always 2 steps ahead. We clicked fast, and that almost never happens for me. My crew, before I go deeper, let me introduce the people who matter in this story, the ones who saw the storm coming before I did. Dylan Ward. My best friend since college. IT guy by day, stand-up comedian by night, professional troublemaker 24/7. He calls it like it is, no filter. Dylan smelled something off about Aria from day one. He nicknamed her Princess PowerPoint because she made slide decks for everything. Our weekend plans, she had charts. A brunch invite, she had a presentation. Clara Cross, my sister, criminal defense attorney. Brutal honesty wrapped in loyalty. Clara has this sixth sense for people. She can read them before they even open their mouths. She met Aria once and whispered to me, "She's calculating. Careful, Ethan." I should have listened. Rex, my golden retriever. Loyal, dumb, and endlessly entertaining. This dog once got his head stuck in a cereal box and just sat there wagging his tail like life was perfect. Rex adored Aria. And here's the thing, you can't trust this dog's judgment. He once tried to befriend a raccoon that was ready to rip his face off. Sophie Grant, an old college friend. Fitness trainer, strong enough to deadlift a car but soft-hearted enough to laugh at bad dad jokes. We were just friends, always had been. She'll matter later. And then there's Vanessa Kane, Aria's younger sister. Entitled doesn't even begin to cover it. Vanessa treats waiters like personal assistants. She once demanded a manager because her latte foam wasn't Instagram-worthy. That was the cast, my people versus her people, and right in the middle, me, the ex who never left. From the very start, everything wrong with Aria seemed to have one name, Marcus Hale, her ex. They'd been together 3 years, broke up a year before we met. According to her, he couldn't commit. Translation, he dodged a bullet. But here's the problem. Marcus never really left the room. His name came up constantly. Marcus got promoted. Marcus bought a Tesla. Marcus's mom was sick. Marcus this. Marcus that. Dylan started counting during dinners. His record? 23 Marcus mentions in one night. He leaned over afterward and said, "Bro, Marcus is more involved in your relationship than you are." Clara didn't bother with jokes. She looked me in the eye and said, "You're just a placeholder until he comes back. Mark my words." I should have listened, I didn't. The business creep. 6 months in, things looked steady on the surface. We weren't living together, but most nights we were at either my place or her downtown apartment. Then came the first real warning sign. Aria's company needed a security upgrade. "Since that's literally what I do for a living," I offered. Simple job. Quick install. But Aria turned it into a 3-hour PowerPoint session about cross-promotional synergy. She literally made slides about my own business. I did the work anyway. Good job, fair price, done, but she wasn't done. Aria started redesigning my website, adding her email to my client communications, even signing her name on invoices like we were partners. When I asked her what the hell she was doing, she smiled and said she was optimizing brand presence for maximum market penetration. I told Clara. She didn't hesitate. She's treating your company like a hostile takeover. Next, she'll want equity. Dylan was blunter. Bro, she's colonizing your life one PowerPoint at a time. The birthday setup. Then came my birthday, October. Aria insisted on curating, her word, not mine, a networking experience. Not a party. A networking experience. She booked this absurd restaurant downtown where they charge $40 for 3 asparagus spears and call it deconstructed cuisine. The kind of place where waiters have opinions about your wine choices. The guest list seemed fine. My crew, my sister, the usual. But the day before the dinner, Aria dropped the bomb. Oh, by the way, I invited Marcus. I was reviewing surveillance footage for a client when she said it. I had to replay the sentence in my head to make sure I heard right. Marcus, your ex Marcus? Yes, Marcus. He's just a friend now. And honestly, he has amazing connections in the tech world. This could be transformative for your business. Transformative, she used that word, about inviting her ex to my birthday dinner. And Vanessa's coming too, she added casually. She's been dying to meet everyone. Vanessa. The sister who had shown zero interest in my existence for 2 years was suddenly desperate to celebrate my birthday. I called Clara immediately. Let me get this straight, she said in her lawyer voice. She invited her ex-boyfriend to your birthday dinner, and she's spinning it as a business opportunity? That's about the size of it. And her sister who treats you like furniture is suddenly your biggest fan? Yep. Silence on the line. Then Clara said flatly, Brother, she thinks you're an idiot. She's setting something up. You're the only one who doesn't see it coming. I should have canceled everything, but I didn't. Because deep down I wanted to see how far Aria would push it. How far she'd go before the mask slipped. You know what? I told Clara. Let's do it. Let's watch this play out. She laughed. Fine. But I'm bringing front row seats to this train wreck. And that's where part 1 ends. I walked straight into that dinner knowing it was a trap. Knowing my sister and best friend were already bracing for impact. But remember what I said at the start. The trap was already set and I was still walking forward. Part 2. The night of my birthday dinner, I felt it before it even started. Something was wrong. Aria Kane had been on her phone all day, smiling. Giggles she tried to hide but didn't. The kind of laughter that doesn't belong to a casual text conversation. The kind that feels intimate, private. The kind you don't want your partner to hear. That was my first warning. I should have canceled right then, but I didn't, because part of me wanted to see what game she was playing. The stage. The restaurant was everything I expected. Pretentious, suffocating, dripping with false class. Waiters dressed like lawyers. Plates described like performance art. A wine list so expensive it might as well have come with a mortgage. We had a table set for 10. I sat at the head, the supposed guest of honor, but it didn't feel like my night. It felt like I was walking into a stage she'd built. Dylan Ward was the first to arrive. He glanced at the menu, muttered under his breath, $30 for mac and cheese. I hope your business insurance covers humiliation. Then came my sister, Clara Cross. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She positioned herself where she could see the whole table, like she was cross-examining the room. I was glad she came. I needed her. The rest of the crew trickled in. Friends, colleagues, the usual mix. Everyone but Marcus Hale and Vanessa Kane. And still Aria couldn't put her phone down. She was checking it every 10 seconds, smiling like she was coordinating a covert operation. The show begins. 25 minutes past our reservation, he walked in. Marcus Hale, bouquet of purple dahlias in his hand like he was the leading man in some cheap romance film. He didn't look at me. Didn't even glance at the birthday boy. He walked straight to Aria. These are for you, beautiful. Happy spring. Spring, in October, in Chicago. Frost warnings on every weather app. But Aria didn't care. She lit up like Christmas morning. Purple dahlias, you remembered, my favorite. Her voice cracked with excitement. God, you always had the better taste. Then she turned, no, performed for the whole table. "Everyone, look what Marcus brought me, isn't it thoughtful?" The silence that followed was louder than any shout. Clara's pen froze mid-note. Dylan's mouth hung open. My friends sat stunned, like they'd just watched a car crash in slow motion. And then finally, Marcus looked at me. A nod, cold, casual. "Happy birthday, man, thanks for letting me crash." Then he sat. Not beside me, not across from Dylan. Directly across from Arya. Like he belonged there. Like the seat had been saved for him. Clara leaned in, whispered, "Is this really happening?" I couldn't answer. The grand entrance. 15 minutes later, Vanessa Kane swept in, drowning in perfume strong enough to kill small animals. She complained about parking before she even reached the table, then dove straight into taking selfies with Marcus's flowers like they were hers. The trap was set. The dinner from hell. I sat at the head of the table, the supposed reason everyone was gathered, and watched my girlfriend have a date with her ex. Marcus and Arya traded inside jokes like the rest of us were invisible. "Remember Napa when it rained?" Marcus asked. "Oh my God, yes," Arya laughed, "and we spent the whole day trapped in that wine bar." Vanessa leaned in, her voice dripping with glee. "You two looked so perfect together in those photos." It wasn't dinner, it was theater. A reunion performance, and we were the unwilling audience. Clara was taking notes now. Actual notes. Building her case like she'd already decided to prosecute. Dylan kicked me under the table, mouthed, "What the actual hell is this?" I sat there, my jaw tight, my chest heavy. This wasn't just disrespect, it was deliberate. Arya wasn't testing me anymore, she was humiliating me. The cake. An hour crawled by. Marcus dominated the table, pretending to be the authority on wine, travel, business, anything he could use to command attention. Arya hung on every word. Vanessa documented it all on her phone like she was the official photographer for their love story. Then the waiter brought the cake. Candles flickering. My moment. But Marcus was the one who started singing. "Happy birthday." The table followed his lead. Arya put her arm around me for the first time all evening. Fake, stiff, performative. "Make a wish, babe." I looked at the candles, and in that second, everything clicked. This wasn't about Marcus, not really. This was about Arya, about control, about proving she could put me on display, strip me of dignity, and watch me smile through it. But she'd underestimated me, because what nobody knew was that I'd been holding something back, something that would burn this performance to the ground, the announcement. I blew out the candles, then I stood. "Actually, I've got an announcement." The table went still. "Arya and I won't be getting married after all." The silence hit harder than any slap. Clara's pen tapped once, then stopped. Dylan's eyes went wide. Vanessa nearly dropped her phone. Arya's face twisted, cycling through 6 shades of panic, rage, and disbelief. "What are you talking about?" she hissed. I turned to Marcus, locked eyes with him. "Kyle, oh wait, Marcus, since you've been running the show tonight, the check's on you. Thanks for hosting my birthday, man." His smirk vanished. "What? And congratulations, by the way, on whatever this is." The room tilted, everyone holding their breath. I pulled my phone from my pocket. 5953, that's your access code to my house, right? Spells KYLE on the keypad. Pretty creative. The explosion was immediate. Dylan slammed the table, yelling loud enough for the whole restaurant. "Holy shit." Clara leaned back, satisfied. She'd been waiting for this moment. Arya jumped up, panic burning through her mask. "You can't just cancel our wedding." "Watch me." The evidence. I pulled the engagement ring from my jacket pocket. Not because I was going to propose again, because I wanted everyone to see it. The proof of how far she'd taken this lie. We were supposed to announce our wedding date tonight. Her parents already put down 15 grand on the venue. My deposits in escrow. And this ring? I set the box on the table. I was going to upgrade it for the announcement. Gasps around the table. Vanessa's jaw nearly hit the floor. "Wait, you were engaged? When were you going to tell us?" I ignored her. My voice cut through the silence. "I've got months of security footage, you two in my house while I was traveling, playing house in my bed, in my kitchen, in my life. So consider the engagement terminated." Arya's face collapsed. Marcus tried to speak. "Look, man, it's not. It's exactly what it looks like." I cut him off. My voice was calm now. Deadly calm. You've been living in my shadow, eating from my plate, smiling in my face while stabbing me in the back. Since you like the house so much, maybe you can start paying the mortgage." Clara stood too, her attorney voice sharp as a blade. "Security footage? Oh, this is gold. Adultery, property rights. Ethan, we're going to have a field day." Marcus stammered. I didn't." "You did." My words sliced the air. "And she helped you." The end of the night. I looked around the table, my friends, witnesses to the farce. Their silence spoke louder than any words. "This dinner's over," I said. "Marcus has the check. Arya's got her flowers. And me? I've got vendors to call, contracts to cancel, and one less parasite in my life." I slipped the ring box back into my pocket. Clara grabbed her purse. Dylan was grinning like it was the best comedy show of his life. I turned one last time to Arya and Marcus. "Thanks for making my birthday unforgettable." Then I walked out. But here's the thing. Ending an engagement is simple. Walking away is simple. What comes after? That's where the real story begins. Because Arya Kane wasn't done, and Marcus Hale? He had no idea what kind of war he'd just started. Part 3. When I walked out of that restaurant, the night air cut colder than the wind coming off Lake Michigan. Inside, chaos was unfolding. I could still hear Marcus Hale trying to sweet-talk the waiter into letting him stall the $450 bill, his voice cracking with the weight of exposure. Arya Kane's shrieks followed me out the door, sharp and feral, echoing through the stone facade like a wild animal caught in a trap. But I didn't turn back. I didn't need to. The performance was over. Clara was right behind me, her heels clicking across the sidewalk, her expression alive with something between glee and vindication. "That," she said, slipping her coat over her shoulders, "was the most beautiful public execution I've ever witnessed. You should have charged admission." I didn't answer. My phone was already buzzing, Arya's name lighting up my screen in a frenzy of missed calls and texts. I let it vibrate until it went silent. Tonight wasn't about damage control. Tonight was about ending the story for good. The audit. Back home, the lights felt too bright, too clean. The kind of sterile normalcy that made betrayal sting deeper. Dylan Ward arrived first, balancing a greasy pizza box in one hand, his face still carrying the look of someone who'd just watched a car crash in slow motion. Clara followed 10 minutes later, legal pad under her arm like she was coming to court. "This is better than any case I've worked on," she said as she poured herself a glass of bourbon. "And I'm documenting everything." Rex bounded around the living room, tail wagging, dragging his battered tennis ball toward each guest as if this was a celebration instead of an autopsy. He had no idea the treats he'd been begging for these past months were coming from the man who'd been desecrating my life. I opened my laptop, pulled up the home security dashboard, and took a deep breath. My system was top of the line. Cameras at every entrance, motion sensors in each room, smart locks with digital logs that time-stamped every use. I had built this fortress myself, and yet somehow the enemy had lived inside. The enemy had evidence. The footage started simple. The front door. Time-stamped, clean, undeniable. Marcus entering my house at 9:13 p.m., a rolling suitcase in one hand, Arya at his side. She wasn't sneaking. She wasn't ashamed. She was smiling, hair tied back, the look of someone arriving home. Then the code. My stomach clenched when I saw it flash across the lockpad, 5953. Marcus, Kyle, cute, clever, disgusting. Clara leaned over my shoulder, her pen flying across the page. "This isn't just adultery," she muttered. "It's criminal trespass, unauthorized access. She gave him a key to your castle." Dylan nearly choked on his slice of pizza. "Dude, he's wearing your Northwestern hoodie, feeding Rex, like bribing your dog with your own kibble while screwing your girlfriend. That's villain-level audacity." On screen, Marcus tossed Rex a treat, then collapsed on my couch, arm draped lazily across Arya's shoulders as if the house itself recognized them as its owners. The camera in the living room caught them eating my leftovers, watching my Netflix account, laughing. I clicked through weeks of footage, each clip cutting deeper than the last. 17 entries over 3 months. Always the same pattern. I'd leave town for a client installation, and within hours, Marcus's code appeared in the logs. He'd roll in with his bag, and together they'd occupy my life like squatters in a crime scene. I revoked every access code but mine, changed every password, every biometric entry. I wanted them locked out of more than just my house. I wanted them locked out of the illusion they had control. The message. I chose one frame. Marcus sliding his key code timestamp 3 weeks ago, while I was 200 miles away in Denver installing a system for another client. Proof undeniable. I sent it to Arya with no explanation. Within minutes, she replied, "We need to talk." I didn't bother to type words. Instead, I responded with a single GIF, Samuel L. Jackson smirking, mouthing one word, "No." Dylan snorted. Clara didn't even look up from her notes. "Don't engage, let her bury herself, she's already halfway there." Severing ties. Next was the professional cleanup. Arya's company had been a client of mine for months. I'd personally installed their corporate security system. That was leverage. I drafted an email. Due to a personal conflict of interest, I am assigning another account manager from my team to oversee your company's service needs moving forward. I copied my operations director, making it official. Translation. Your trusted employee has used my systems as a staging ground for her affair. She won't be running this scam under my roof any longer. It wasn't revenge, it was pruning dead branches. The condo. But fate has a dark sense of humor. 3 months earlier, I'd purchased a condo as an investment property, Unit 3F in a downtown high-rise. Pure coincidence that Arya lived in 3B. Same floor, same hallway. Different worlds. The unit was already rented out, but a week before my birthday, my tenant had reported water damage in the ceiling. My property manager, Mark, had been juggling schedules, waiting to line up emergency plumbing. Now the timing was perfect. I texted him. That water damage in 3F needs immediate attention. Could affect adjacent units, too. He replied instantly. Already scheduled emergency plumbing for tomorrow morning. Building management will need to inspect neighboring units as well. I set my phone down. Dylan raised his beer like a toast. Dude, you don't even need revenge. The universe is doing it for you. Clara smirked over the rim of her glass. Not revenge. Karma. A landlord's prerogative. The visit. 2 days later, I was at Clara's apartment helping her rearrange furniture when the pounding started. Heavy, frantic, like fists trying to break the door down. Clara looked through the peephole and grinned. Well, Arya Kane, and she looks feral. When the door swung open, Arya stood there. Mascara streaked down her face, hair wild, breathing hard like she'd sprinted across the city. Her voice cracked as she tried to push past Clara. Where is he? Clara didn't budge. At 5'8", with a CrossFit regimen that turned her shoulders into steel, she was a brick wall. Arya stumbled against her and rebounded. He's not here, Clara said, voice calm, dangerous. But I am, so talk. I need to see him about the wedding. He can't just cancel everything. Clara laughed. It wasn't friendly. It was the laugh of someone who enjoys watching a predator realize it's trapped. Actually, he can. Actions meet consequences, Arya. Revolutionary concept, I know. Arya's face flushed red, blotchy, desperate. You don't understand our relationship. I understand. Clara cut her off coldly. I understand you paraded Marcus Hale into my brother's birthday dinner like a prize horse. I understand you gave him unrestricted access to Ethan's house. I understand you thought adultery came with severance pay. Arya's lip trembled, and then it came, the signature move. Tears. Streaming, gasping, mascara-stained manipulation. My parents already paid for everything, she sobbed. $15,000 gone, we can't just... Clara stepped closer, towering. We can, and we will. You lost more than money, Arya. You lost the last shred of respect my brother ever had for you. Arya's tears blurred into hiccups, her body collapsing against the doorframe like she was crumbling under her own weight. But I wasn't there to pick her up. Not anymore. From the other room, Rex barked once, sharp and low, as if he knew, and outside the city wind howled, colder than ever. Part 4. Clara didn't flinch when Arya Kane started crying. Didn't even blink. She just stepped closer, her heels sharp against the hardwood, and her voice dropped into that cold courtroom register that always made men on trial break down and confess to things they hadn't even been accused of. Maybe, Clara said, her tone a blade sliding beneath flesh. Your parents should have spent that 15 grand teaching their daughter the value of loyalty instead of throwing money at a wedding for a liar and a thief. Aria's tears came faster, her mascara painting rivers across her face. She spat back, "You're just like him, cold, heartless." Clara tilted her head slightly, her expression curdling into something predatory. "Honey, I am nothing like my brother. Ethan gave you years of his life. He opened his world to you, his home, his business connections, his loyalty. He gave you a ring you never earned, and you repaid him by sneaking Marcus Hale through his doors like some parasite. You never liked me," Aria choked out, her voice high, shrill, desperate. "No," Clara admitted, her lips curling into the faintest shadow of a smile. "I saw through you from day one. I told him you were trouble, but Ethan's too good-hearted. He thought you could be saved. He thought you were worth it." She stepped closer and Aria actually staggered back. "But you're not. You're a user. You used his expertise, his reputation, his house as a stage for your affair. You used his generosity to fund your lifestyle. You're nothing but a parasite dressed up in designer clothes." Aria crumbled further, sobbing, but Clara wasn't done, her voice cut like broken glass. "You had a man who loved you, Aria, a man who built a future for you, and you threw it away for what? Marcus Hale, the ex who stuck you with a $450 dinner check and hasn't answered your calls since." "I made a mistake," Aria whispered, her words fragile, shaking. Clara's laugh was sharp, humorless. "No, you didn't trip into betrayal like a puddle in the street. You made choices, calculated, deliberate choices. You gave Marcus access to Ethan's house. You plotted that humiliation dinner. You made Ethan's birthday your theater for cruelty. You chose Marcus over your fiancé every time. And now you're choosing to harass his family because you can't stand the consequences." Aria sobbed harder, her words dissolving into incoherence. "You don't understand. It's history with someone, it's complicated." Clara's eyes went black with disdain. "I understand loyalty, something you'll never grasp. Now get off this property before I call the police and file harassment charges. And the next time you try to play the victim, remember this." Clara leaned forward, her voice dropping into a whisper that chilled the air. "Security cameras don't lie. I watched from the kitchen doorway. My sister had always been fierce, but this wasn't just defense, this was an execution, a dismantling. And as I watched Aria retreat, mascara running, sobs strangling her throat, I'd never been prouder." 3 days later, my phone erupted during a client installation. A storm of missed calls, frantic texts, all from Aria. "Aria Kane. What did you do? There's water everywhere. The ceiling collapsed. My laptop's gone. My furniture's destroyed. Call me. Now." Her panic messages came in waves, each more frantic than the last. But they were just the overture. Because while Aria drowned in her literal flood, her family came for me with a storm of their own. Her mother's voice shrieked down the line first. "How dare you humiliate our daughter? Do you realize how much we've invested in your future together?" Her father was more precise, his tone as sharp as a lawyer's knife. "Son, we need to talk financial compensation. Deposits, venues, catering. We've lost $15,000 because of your impulsive decision." And then Vanessa Kane, Aria's sister, snarled through the phone, dripping venom. "You destroyed her reputation. You owe us for this disaster." I almost laughed. They still thought this was my burden to carry. The truth was simpler and far darker. The water had been building for months, a slow hidden rot behind the walls. The leak started in the shared plumbing line between my rental property, Unit 3F, and Aria's apartment, 3B, just 2 doors down. By coincidence, or maybe by some twisted alignment of fate, I owned the very building that now held her prison of misery. When the plumbers cut into the walls, months of pressure unleashed at once, ceilings collapsed, hardwood warped into ruin. Aria's apartment, her perfectly curated Instagram-ready space, was reduced to a swamp of mildew and splintered furniture. Dylan would later call it an expensive indoor swimming pool. Management declared both units uninhabitable for 6 weeks minimum. Aria's carefully crafted world was unmade overnight, and yet she still called me, still screamed down the line. "Where am I supposed to live, Ethan?" she demanded, like I was her landlord, her savior, her cleanup crew. I didn't hesitate. "Marcus has a place. You seemed comfortable making yourself at home there." My parents want reimbursement for the wedding deposits, she snapped. They can want whatever they like, I replied, voice low even. I wanted fidelity. We don't always get what we want. Her voice trembled, but the venom still seeped through. You owe us. No, I said, my patience finished. The only thing I want back is the engagement ring. She froze, then with practiced innocence, what ring? The $8,000 ring you're wearing on your finger, I said, my tone cold. Legally, it's a conditional gift. No marriage, no ring. Return it. Her laugh was sharp, ugly. It's mine. You gave it to me. And I gave it to my fiancé. You're not that anymore. You're not getting it back. I hung up before she could spit another word. And then I called Clara. Her voice sharpened as soon as I explained. Illinois law is clear. Engagement rings are conditional. She has no legal standing to keep it. 2 days later, a courier delivered legal papers straight into Aria's hands. Return of property, lawsuit, court summons. The irony was delicious. Her parents had to bankroll her lawyer because she'd drained her savings replacing ruined furniture. Clara, of course, couldn't resist her commentary. So let me get this straight. She's homeless, being sued for a ring. Her parents are down 15 grand. And Marcus Hale ghosted her after sticking her with a $450 dinner bill? Clara smirked. This isn't just karma. This is poetic justice. Meanwhile, Dylan kept me updated on Marcus. The man had vanished, avoiding Aria's calls, skipping mutual hangouts, acting like the humiliation at the restaurant had been enough to cauterize his connection to her. The great romantic hero had abandoned her in the ruins she helped build. 2 weeks after the flood, I met Sophie Grant for coffee. She'd heard whispers of the birthday debacle and wanted to check in. Who brings flowers for an ex at someone else's birthday? Sophie asked, shaking her head. We talked for 3 hours. For the first time in months, I felt the weight lift. Sophie was real, straightforward, honest. She told me plainly she always thought Aria was self-absorbed, but hadn't spoken up because I seemed happy. She treated you like an accessory, Sophie said, her voice calm but cutting. Like you existed to polish her image. I didn't argue. I just listened. The legal battle unfolded predictably. My lawyer filed a simple motion. Return of conditional gift. Aria's attorney tried to spin adultery into entitlement, as if cheating somehow let her keep an $8,000 trophy. The judge wasn't amused. Your Honor, her lawyer argued, my client received this ring as a gift with the reasonable expectation of marriage. My lawyer rose smoothly. Your Honor, the plaintiff had a reasonable expectation of fidelity. That expectation was violated in his own home. We have footage. Silence. The gavel fell like a gunshot. Case closed. The judge ordered Aria to return the ring immediately and cover my court costs. Her parents, already bleeding from $15,000 in wasted deposits, now had to cough up another $2,500 in legal fees. Aria had lost everything. Her apartment, her wedding, her ring, her dignity. Marcus Hale was gone. And I had everything I needed. Closure, clarity, and the unshakable knowledge that I had survived their game. And the game wasn't over yet. The moment the engagement ring slid back into my hand, I felt nothing but cold clarity. That glittering $8,000 stone, once a promise of a future, was now a shard of broken glass from a life I'd burned to the ground. I didn't hesitate. The next morning, I sold it. The money didn't go into savings. It didn't go into rebuilding what Aria Kane had tried to hollow out of me. No. I invested it in something else. Something pure, untarnished. A fortress of my own design. The gaming rig was obscene. Bleeding-edge graphics card, dual 4K monitors. Sound system that could make gunfire feel like shrapnel in your chest. Dylan Ward helped me put it together, and when the machine roared to life, he let out a whistle low and sharp. Best investment you've ever made, Dylan said during one of our all-night marathons the two of us lost in digital warfare. Beside me, Rex snored softly on his bed, only lifting his head to bark at the thunder of explosions. My dog, loyal and innocent, he had no idea his world had been infiltrated by betrayal and rot. Watching him sleep made me realize everything Aria had touched was corrupted. Everything except him. Better than being married to Princess PowerPoint, Dylan muttered between bites of pizza, his eyes never leaving the screen. I laughed, but the sound was sharp, brittle. The truth was, even then, I knew the ring wasn't finished with me. It was a harbinger. The real detonation came weeks later, courtesy of Dylan's underground intelligence network, our mutual friends, the ones who had been tracking the fallout of the Arya Kane and Marcus Hale saga with the fascination of spectators at a car crash. "Ethan," Dylan said one night, voice flat in a way that made me pause the game, "you're gonna want to hear this." I braced myself. Nothing good ever started with that tone. Turns out Marcus Hale wasn't just an ex-boyfriend unwilling to let go. He wasn't just a parasite who crawled back into Arya's bed when she wanted nostalgia dressed up as love. No, Marcus was married. 2 years. His wife, Jennifer Hale, was a high-powered consultant, international, always traveling. She lived in boardrooms and airports while Marcus lived a double life. To her, he was the devoted husband holding down the home front. To everyone else, he was the eternal bachelor, free, reckless, dangerous. But the birthday dinner had set off a chain reaction he couldn't control. That $450 bill he tried to dodge? He'd used his joint credit card. Jennifer saw it. She asked questions. His answers unraveled. Suspicion metastasized into investigation. And Jennifer was thorough. She didn't just glance, she dug. She cracked into the shared phone plan. Found messages between Marcus and Arya that dripped with filth. She accessed his cloud storage. Pictures, hotel receipts, movie tickets. She assembled a dossier that could have been handed to a prosecutor. Within 2 weeks of my birthday, Jennifer filed for divorce. Swift, surgical, ruthless. Illinois still recognized adultery, and she wielded that like a blade. By the time the papers were signed, Marcus Hale was gutted. He lost the house, half his assets, his reputation shredded. And his response? The same as Arya's when the walls closed in. He vanished, ghosted her, blocked her calls, erased her from his life as though she was nothing but collateral damage. Arya Kane, meanwhile, was unraveling. With her apartment still uninhabitable from the flood, she had drifted like smoke between temporary places. First, Vanessa Kane, her sister. That lasted 4 days before Vanessa threw her out. "Too much drama," she'd said, shoving her into the hallway with her suitcase. From there, Arya wound up in an extended stay hotel, paying almost as much as rent but getting none of the permanence. Just a sterile room with paper-thin walls and an air conditioner that wheezed like it was dying. Her parents? They were done. They'd watched $15,000 vanish with the wedding deposits. They'd watched her drag their family name through public humiliation. Her mother's words to her daughter, "We raised you better than to throw away a good man for a married loser." She was drowning in her own wreckage, and still she clutched at the shards like they could cut someone other than herself. 6 months after the disaster that had been my birthday, I stood at the altar with Sophie Grant. We kept it small, intimate, nothing bloated or performative like what Arya had demanded. Half the cost, twice the sincerity. Sophie's parents were warm, genuine people who looked at me like I was family, not a transaction. Dylan was my best man. His speech brought the room to life, his words equal parts razor and wit. "May your marriage be as solid as the security footage that ended the last one," he toasted. The laughter was cathartic. Even Rex played his part, ring bearer in a tiny tuxedo bumbling down the aisle, distracted by squirrels twice, nearly eating the centerpiece flowers during the reception. He was joy embodied. For the first time in years, I felt whole, until the shadows returned. The reception was alive with music and light when I noticed movement near the entrance. A disturbance. Security hemming someone in. I didn't want to believe it. But the moment she broke through, I knew. Arya Kane, her hair a mess, eyes burning with desperation, body thinner but her stomach rounded. Pregnant. 6 months maybe. The dress tried to disguise it, but it was impossible to miss. She locked eyes with me across the room and the chatter died. A chill spread through the crowd. She forced her way to me, ignoring the staff. "Congratulations," she spat, her voice sharp enough to cut through the music. "You moved on remarkably fast." Sophie's hand tightened around mine. She was calm, colder than ice. "What do you want, Arya?" I asked, keeping my voice low even. "We need to talk, privately. Whatever you have to say, you'll say here. This is my wife." Her eyes flicked to Sophie, then back to me. She squared her shoulders. Fine, I'm pregnant. The silence was deafening. Guests froze, their drinks halfway to their lips. Congratulations, I said. I'm sure Marcus will be thrilled to. Marcus won't return my calls, she snapped, her composure fracturing. He's ghosted me since the divorce. He doesn't care. He's gone. And this involves me how? Her lips trembled. She inhaled, then said the words I knew were coming before they left her mouth. This baby, it might be yours. A ripple went through the reception hall, like glass shattering underfoot. Clara appeared at my side instantly, her presence a wall of steel. Sophie didn't flinch. Arya, I said, my voice carrying across the stunned crowd. You want to do this here at my wedding? I didn't know where else to find you, she whispered. So you decided to crash my wedding with this lie? It's not a lie. Then you won't mind proving it. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? A paternity test. DNA doesn't lie. The blood drained from her face. That's not. We don't need to. Oh, we absolutely need to. If you're so sure, then you won't mind the truth carved in black and white. I just thought you'd want to help, she pleaded, her voice breaking. Help with this. Help with what? A child that isn't mine? From a woman who turned my home into a crime scene of betrayal? No, Arya. The only thing I'll help with is proving you're still the liar you've always been. Clara's smile was sharp enough to cut. I'll have the paperwork ready by morning. Security moved in. Arya backed away, her desperation twisting into venom. You're making a mistake, she hissed. When that test comes back, you'll regret this. You'll regret everything. She was dragged from the reception, but her words lingered like smoke in a locked room. The music resumed, but the mood was fractured. Guests whispered, shocked. Dylan clapped me on the shoulder later at the bar, his face unreadable. That was intense, he said. You think there's any chance? I didn't answer right away. My eyes found Sophie across the room, laughing with Clara, her strength radiating like a beacon. Rex was under the table, gnawing at dropped cake, blissfully unaware of the chaos that trailed us like a curse. We'll find out tomorrow, I said finally. 9 a.m. sharp. Whatever the results, I already know the truth that matters. Dylan tilted his glass. And what's that? That my real family is right here. The test would speak soon enough. DNA didn't lie. People did. Arya Kane did. Whatever tomorrow revealed, I was ready. Because I'd already survived the worst. Or so I thought. The night pressed heavy on the city, a suffocating blanket of heat and silence. I stood at my apartment window, staring at the skyline as though the answers I desperately needed might be hiding among the neon flickers and glass towers. My hands trembled, not from fear, or at least that's what I kept telling myself, but from the weight of everything Arya had done to me. I had proof now. Or so I believed. On my desk sat a folder, swollen with emails, screenshots, fragments I'd pieced together like a detective who wanted so badly to believe the picture he'd drawn. There were doctored conversations, messages she'd sent under my name, photos taken without my knowledge. Enough, I thought, to show people the truth. Enough to pull myself free from her web. Tomorrow morning, I told myself I would go to HR. If I could show them who she really was, maybe I could still salvage my reputation. Maybe I could salvage my relationship, maybe even my sanity. But deep down, as the clock crept past midnight, I knew I was already too late. The knock came at 12:37. 3 sharp raps on the door, deliberate, confident. My chest tightened. Nobody came by at this hour. When I opened the door, she was there. Arya. Her hair damp with rain, her black coat gleaming under the hallway light, her eyes burning with something between triumph and hunger. Miss me? She asked, stepping inside before I could even find words. My throat clenched. You shouldn't be here. She laughed softly, brushing droplets from her coat like she owned the place. Oh, Ethan, you've been saying that for weeks. And yet, here I am. Her gaze swept across the room until it landed on the folder on my desk. Planning something? I moved quickly, placing myself between her and the desk. I'm done, Arya. Tomorrow this ends. Her smile widened, slow and serpentine. Tomorrow? She tilted her head in mock amusement. No, Ethan, it ends tonight. I snatched the folder from the desk, holding it up between us like a shield, like a weapon. I'm taking this to HR, to the police if I have to. I'm not afraid of you anymore." She didn't even flinch. Instead, she stepped closer, her voice low, sharp, and cutting. "You think a stack of paper is going to save you? You poor, naive man." She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. A swipe of her finger and a video filled the screen. It was me. My face, my voice, my apartment in the background, with her, kissing her, touching her, saying things I didn't even remember saying. "You're lying," I whispered, though even as the words left my lips, they sounded hollow. Her eyes glistened with delight. "Deepfakes are such a marvelous invention, don't you think? But this—" She tapped again, and another file appeared. "This one's real. Security footage. You, entering my building at 2 a.m. last week, remember?" My stomach twisted. I did remember. I had been there, drunk and desperate, begging her to stop tormenting me. She had filmed everything. She leaned closer, her perfume thick and suffocating. "If you so much as breathe the wrong way tomorrow, I'll send these to your boss, to your girlfriend, to your family. Tell me, Ethan, who do you think they'll believe? The calm, polished woman with evidence, or the paranoid man unraveling in front of them?" My knees nearly buckled. "You can't do this forever," I managed to say, though my voice cracked. "One day people will see you for what you are." Her smile sharpened, almost pitying. "Oh, Ethan, that's the difference between us. You're waiting for one day. I make sure it's never." She brushed past me, her hand grazing my shoulder like she was branding me. At my desk, she picked up the folder, flipped through its contents, and chuckled. "Cute. You really thought you could beat me with this? Amateur work." Then she slid it into her bag. "That's mine," I snapped, lunging forward, but she was quicker, already stepping back with the folder clutched tight. "No," she said softly, her voice dripping with ownership. "It's mine now, just like you." The room seemed to close in on me, shadows thickening, pressing down. "You don't own me," I tried to say with conviction, but the words fell thin. Her eyes narrowed, her whisper colder than ice. "Don't I? Every time you look over your shoulder, every sleepless night, every lie you tell to cover the ones I've planted. I'm inside you, Ethan. And there's no cutting me out." My breath came fast and shallow. Panic clawed at my chest. She stepped so close our faces nearly touched. Her words seeped into me like venom. "You'll stay quiet. You'll smile at work. You'll keep your girlfriend happy. And you'll know, deep down, that the moment you step out of line, I can end you with a single click." And in that moment, the truth hit me. This wasn't a battle, not anymore. This was ownership. She had already won. I sank into the chair, my head falling into my hands, the weight of her victory pressing down like chains I couldn't break. Arya crouched in front of me, tilting her head until her eyes met mine. There," she whispered, her voice mockingly tender. "It's easier once you stop fighting. Trust me, I'll take good care of you." She leaned in and kissed my cheek, lingering as though she wanted me to mistake the gesture for something loving. When she pulled away, her smile was radiant. "Good night, Ethan. Sleep well. You'll need it." And then she was gone. Just like that. The door closing softly behind her like nothing had happened at all. I sat in silence, staring into the dark. Outside, the city pulsed with neon and life. Inside, everything was black. The folder was gone. My freedom was gone. And somewhere deep inside me, I finally understood what she had meant. There would be no one day. Only her. Always her. My hands trembled as I stood in the dim glow of my office. Midnight had swallowed the city outside. Its lights flickered like dying stars. But in here, the air was heavy, suffocating. On my desk sat the folder, my last piece of hope. Emails, call logs, hidden recordings. Proof of what Arya had done. Proof that she had manipulated me, trapped me, dismantled my life piece by piece. If I could get this to HR, to the board, to anyone, maybe I'd finally sever her grip. Maybe I could still walk away with something left of myself. But even as the thought crossed my mind, I smelled it. That familiar trace of jasmine, faint but deliberate. My stomach dropped. I turned, and there she was. Arya leaned against the doorframe, dressed in black as though the night itself had clothed her. Her lips curled into a smile that didn't touch her eyes. A smile that said, "I already know." "Planning a little surprise, Ethan?" Her voice slid across the room, low and silky, dangerous. My throat tightened. "You don't belong here." "Oh, darling." She stepped in and shut the door behind her with a soft click. That sound felt like a coffin lid sealing shut. I've always belonged here, in your office, in your life, in your head. Her heels clicked against the floor like a countdown as she crossed the room, closing in on me. She reached my desk, her fingers grazing the folder. She flipped it open lazily, as if skimming through a child's homework, then looked at me. "You really thought you could beat me with this?" she whispered. "Screenshots, call logs, a few desperate recordings?" My jaw locked. "It's enough, people will see what you've done." Her laughter cut me deeper than any knife. "People will see what you've done." From her bag she pulled a small flash drive and set it on my desk. My gut twisted into knots. "Go on," she purred. "Plug it in, see what they'll see." Every instinct in me screamed not to, but I did. My computer lit up. Videos filled the screen, one after another. My breath caught. It was me. Me in meetings whispering things I didn't remember saying. Me in dim hotel bars too close to her. Me at my desk late at night typing emails that twisted my words into something damning. Doctored, perfectly edited, but convincing. Too convincing. Her voice slid into the silence like a knife. "By the time I'm done, Ethan, they won't see you as the victim. They'll see you as the predator, the manipulator, the man who harassed his coworker, slept with her, stalked her, tried to ruin her when she rejected him." "No," I choked out, panic clawing at my throat. "That's not true. You made this up." Arya tilted her head, eyes glinting like glass shards. "Of course I did. But tell me, who will they believe? The calm, collected woman with carefully documented evidence? Or the man who's been unraveling right in front of everyone?" She stepped closer, so close I felt her breath on my face. "I've been laying this groundwork for months, every time you raised your voice, every time you lost your temper, every time you looked at me too long in a meeting. I made sure someone noticed. I planted the seed. And now?" She snapped her fingers. "They'll let it bloom." I stumbled back, my chest tightening until I could hardly breathe. The walls pressed in, shrinking around me. "Why?" I whispered. "Why me?" Her smile widened, reaching her eyes at last, and what lived there was monstrous. "Because you were easy. Because you thought you could walk away. Because breaking you is so much more satisfying than being with you." She leaned in, her words a razor slicing across my skin. "And because when I win and you'll still belong to me, not as a lover, not as a partner, but as a ghost of yourself, a ruin that only I get to own." My breath came ragged, broken. I reached for the folder, desperate to cling to what little hope remained, but she was faster. In one fluid motion, she snatched it from my grasp and fed it into the shredder by my desk. The blades chewed through everything, every desperate page, every last shred of defense. The sound filled the room like a funeral dirge. I lunged, but she placed one hand on my chest. I froze. Not because she was strong, but because her touch felt final. When the shredder fell silent, so did I. "It's over, Ethan," she whispered. "Tomorrow morning I'll make the call. By noon you'll be gone from this company. By evening, your reputation will be ash. And by night, you'll realize the only person who will ever understand you, who will ever stand by you, is me." Her eyes locked onto mine. I'll be the only one left. Tears burned at the edges of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I opened my mouth to speak, to curse her, to beg, to say something, but nothing came. My voice was gone. My fight was gone. Arya leaned in, pressing her lips against my ear. Her whisper was the final blade. "You lost the moment you thought you could outsmart me." Then she walked out, heels echoing in the silence, leaving me with nothing but shadows. I collapsed into my chair, my chest hollow, my world crumbling. The city lights outside flickered against the glass, but I didn't see them. All I could see was her smile, burned into me. The screen still glowed with the false evidence, a grotesque reflection of a life rewritten. And in that moment I understood the truth. Arya hadn't just destroyed me, she had erased me. And in the ruins of my life she would always be there. The dark force pulling my strings, the nightmare I could never wake from. The final twist wasn't her victory. It was that I still belonged to her, forever.